Organic waste and water pollution. Organic wastes are substances that can be decomposed by bacteria that require oxygen, that is, aerobic bacteria. When organic wastes are present in water, aerobic bacteria break them down, and this process consumes oxygen from the water. Large populations of aerobic bacteria use up the oxygen in the water to degrade the organic wastes. The depletion of oxygen reduces the amount of oxygen which is available for other aquatic organisms like fish, which need oxygen to survive. If too much of the organic matter is added into the water bodies, all the available oxygen can be used up by the aerobic bacteria, and this oxygen depletion can cause fish and other oxygen dependent aquatic life to die due to the lack of oxygen. Now oxygen is depleted, so in this case anaerobic bacteria, means the bacteria which do not require oxygen, they take over the decomposition process. Anaerobic bacteria produces chemicals during their respiration that have a foul odor and unpleasant taste, such as hydrogen sulfide and methane. And these byproducts are harmful to human health and further degrade the water quality, which makes it unfit for consumption and other uses. Eutrophication. So eutrophication is the enrichment of water bodies with nutrients, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus, leading to various structural changes in the ecosystem. This process results in increased production of algae and aquatic plants, depletion of fish species, general deterioration of water quality, and other adverse effects that hinder the use of water. Now, all water bodies are subjected to a natural and slow eutrophication process. So, natural eutrophication is slow natural process that all the water bodies undergo over the time period. Cultural eutrophication, it is accelerated eutrophication which is caused by human activities, leading to a rapid increase in nutrient levels and subsequent ecological impacts. Now, what happens in cultural eutrophication? First is continuous addition of nutrients, primarily nitrogen and phosphorus, into the water body takes place. The nutrient load exceeds the natural capacity of the water body in order to purify itself. Then excessive nutrients trigger structural changes in the water body. Now these structural changes, they mainly depend on three factors: use of fertilizers, discharge of wastewater into water bodies, reduction of self-purification capacity. So these factors we'll be discussing in detail in the next slides. So first is use of fertilizers. When agricultural fertilizers, which are rich in nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, they accumulate in the soil and they exceed the soil's capacity to absorb them, rainwater can wash these excess nutrients into the nearby water bodies. So this process is known as nutrient runoff, and it plays a significant role in water pollution. Once these nutrients enters rivers, lakes or seas, they can cause a series of environmental problems including eutrophication, water quality degradation, biodiversity loss and other economic impacts. Discharge of wastewater into water bodies. In various regions lacking proper sewage and wastewater treatment infrastructure, domestic, industrial, and agricultural wastewater, it is often released directly into natural water bodies. Now, this wastewater contains various pollutants, including organic matter, pathogens, chemicals, and especially nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. When this nutrient-rich wastewater enter the river, lakes and seas, it significantly increases the nutrient load in these water bodies. Nitrogen and phosphorus are the key nutrients that promote plant growth. In aquatic environments, they primarily encourage the growth of algae. The high concentration of nutrients stimulates the rapid and excessive growth of algae, leading to what is known as algal blooms. Now these algal blooms can cover large areas of water bodies, creating dense mats of algae on the water surface. Reduction of self-purification capacity. Lakes receive sediments carried by rivers, streams, and runoff from the surrounding watershed. These sediments include soil particles, organic matter, and debris from various sources like erosion, agricultural activities, and urban runoff. Over the years, these sediments settle at the bottom of the lake, gradually accumulating and forming sediment layers. Sediments can absorb and retain large amount of nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus, and pollutants such as heavy metals, pesticides, and organic contaminants from the water column. This process effectively removes these substances from the water, temporarily storing them in the sediment. As the sediments accumulate, they start to fill the lake basin. This reduces the lake's depth and volume, altering its physical and ecological characteristics. The reduction in depth can make the lake more susceptible to temperature changes and influence the distribution of aquatic habitats. The accumulation of sediments increases the contact area between the water and the sediment, enhancing interactions between them. Physical disturbances such as wind action, water currents, or human activities can resuspend the sediments, releasing the absorbed nutrients and pollutants back into the water column. Now, when these sediments are resuspended, the nutrients they contain are released back into the water, posing risks to aquatic ecosystem and human health. Contaminants like heavy metals and organic pollutants can have toxic effects on fish and other aquatic organisms, reducing biodiversity and disrupting the aquatic food web. Now, this resuspension of nutrients can occur naturally during events like storms or can be induced by various human activities like boating, dredging, or construction near the water. Mechanism of eutrophication. Now, eutrophication is a process resulting from the increased availability of nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, which leads to the excessive growth of algae and subsequent negative impacts on aquatic ecosystems. Now, how it begins? It begins with an increased availability of growth factors, which are essential for photosynthesis, such as sunlight, carbon dioxide, and nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. These nutrients often come from agricultural runoff, wastewater discharge, and industrial pollutants. With abundance of these nutrients, algae increase rapidly, leading to algal blooms. These blooms create a large biomass of algae. Now, algae have short life cycles. When they die, their remains accumulate in the water. In deep water, a significant amount of organic matter composed of dead algae settles at the bottom. Decomposing the large biomass of dead algae requires oxygen. Microorganisms that break down the organic matter consume oxygen during this process, and the excessive decomposition demands depletes the oxygen levels in the water, sometimes almost entirely creating hypoxic conditions, means low oxygen conditions, or anoxic conditions, means total absence of oxygen, especially at the bottom of the lake. Now, in the absence of oxygen, anaerobic conditions develop. This environment supports the growth of anaerobic organisms that can survive without oxygen. Now, these anaerobic microorganisms, they continue to degrade the organic matter, releasing compounds like ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, which are toxic. These substances can further harm aquatic life and contribute to the degradation of water quality. Now, the anoxic conditions means the absence of oxygen. Such conditions created at the bottom of the lake have several harmful effects. The lack of oxygen makes it difficult for most aquatic organisms to survive. Fish and other aerobic organisms may die or they may migrate to other areas, leading to reduced biodiversity. Now, this image illustrates the process of eutrophication in the water body, highlighting the various stages and effects on the ecosystem. So first is nutrient intake. Nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, enter the water body from external sources such as agricultural runoff, sewage discharge, and industrial effluents. The entry of these nutrients accelerates the growth of algae and aquatic plants. Then solar energy. Sunlight provides the energy which is required for photosynthesis, further promoting the rapid growth of algae. This results in an algal bloom, a dense growth of algae on the surface of the water. Algal bloom, the excessive nutrients and ample amount of sunlight cause algae to proliferate uncontrollably. Algal blooms can block sunlight from reaching deeper water, affecting other aquatic plants and organisms. Then organic precipitation. As the algae die, they sink to the bottom of the water body. The accumulation of dead organic matter on the bottom, it leads to increased organic decomposition. Organic decomposition, microorganisms break down the dead algae and other organic materials. This process consumes a significant amount of dissolved oxygen in the water. Nutrient release. Decomposition releases nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon back into the water. These released nutrients can fuel further algal blooms, creating a cycle of eutrophication. Toxic substance formation. Decomposition can produce toxic substances such as hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, and methane. These toxic substances can be harmful to aquatic life and overall health of the water body. Scarce oxygen content. The decomposition process depletes the dissolved oxygen in the water, leading to low oxygen conditions. This further can cause stress and mortality in the aquatic organisms which depend on oxygen, particularly bottom-dwelling fauna, or you can say benthic fauna. Benthonic fauna mortality. Low oxygen levels and the presence of toxic substances led to the death of benthic organisms or bottom-dwelling organisms such as fish and invertebrates. The death of these organisms further adds to the organic matter being decomposed, perpetuating the cycle of eutrophication.